Hi guys, today I'm going to be talking about the Greco-Persian Wars. In this episode, I'm going to be focusing on the first Persian campaign to destroy Greece, the Greek city-states, and in the next video, I'm going to be focusing on the second Persian campaign to destroy Greece. So, how did this even begin? This is before the Roman Empire, so get that out of the way. There was the Greek city-states and the Persian Empire. They were big rivalries. The Greek city-states were not one Greece united. It's not like today where Greece is united and one country. They were split in city-states. And they were not friendly. The Greek city-states were not friendly. But when you have a very powerful neighbor on your doorstep, you can't have 1,000 different little nations fighting a huge empire. So they united just this once to destroy the Persian Empire and win the war, so not all of them would be obliterated by the Persian Empire. So this is the first Persian campaign. But why are they at war? Well, obviously, the Persians and the Greeks do not like each other. So there was this revolt in Persia, in Ionia, and the Greeks were like, yes, I do not like Persia. I'm going to send troops. I'm going to send aid. I'm going to send supplies. And so they sent troops, they sent supplies, they sent all the stuff to that revolt. And in response, the Persian Empire invaded Greece because they were like, no, I don't want you fighting. And they thought that if they won, then the Greeks would stop helping the revolt, and then the Persian Empire could be even bigger, even glorious, and they could put down the revolt. So this is the war happening, and what the Persians were trying to do was quickly destroy the main city-states. So there was a bunch of different city-states, thousands of different city-states, but the main two were Athens and Sparta, and there was also Thebes, Corinth, Plataea. So they were just trying, those were the big five. They were trying to destroy the big five. And if they could do that, the rest of the Greek city states would stop the war, and then the Greeks would lose. So the Persians are trying to quickly destroy Athens, Sparta, Thebes, Plataea, and Corinth if they can. So they go to Greece and quickly land. So this is the first Persian campaign. Next video, I'm doing the second Persian campaign. So focus on the green. This is the green. So they come from modern day Turkey. They dock here for supplies, and they keep docking, and then they land right here. This is at the doorstep of Athens. This Athens city is right where that 3 is. They are really close. It's just like 2 days march away. So immediately, the Athenians send out an army to counter this Persian army. Also, Plataea sends out a small force to also stop the Persian army. Because if the Persian army win here, the Greeks are done. They're done. And you're wondering, well, what about Sparta? Well, Sparta was having this festival. It's this festival that Sparta's had, and they took it very seriously. They believed that there should be no military fighting during the festival, or else you would have bad luck. So the Spartans believed that they should finish the festival first and then send support. So the Athenians are not getting, and that Plataeans are not getting immediate support from the Spartans. So they're going to have to try to hold the Persian army where they are and not let them attack. So they set up at the battlefield. The Athenians march out to get to the Persians to stop them, and the battlefield is there. It's just they start the battle, except not immediately. So let's look at the strengths. The Greeks have 11,000 men, 10,000 which of 11,000 men, 10,000 of which are Athenians and 1,000 are Plataeans. At the end of the battle, they had 200 men died, estimate. And the Persians had about 30,000 men, 6,000 men died, estimate again, and 7 ships were destroyed from the Persians. Remember, the Persians still had their fleet with them, which is why ships were destroyed. As you can see, 30,000 versus 11,000, that's almost a 3-to-1 ratio. The Greeks are going to have a hard time winning. But remember, the Persians did not have great equipment. As we can see in this picture, the Greeks had bronze armor, were much more trained, but the Persians had cloth, leather, bad shields, bad spears. So the Greeks do have better troops, but not as many. It's quantity with the Persians versus quality with the Greeks. So they set up on the battlefield. The Athenian camp is up here. So they're going to be camped in here. And the Persians set up camp right before their fleet. The Persian fleet is docked here. And the Persians did not have any cav because they couldn't undock the cav and stuff. And cav took a very long time to undock and redock. So they didn't. The Persians just had a bunch of infantry. And the Athenians are just going to try to hold out the Persians as long as they can. So the Persians are here, the Athenians are here, but then they see that the Persians are in a very vulnerable spot. Well, that's what they think. Historians are not exactly sure why the Greeks attacked because Sparta was only like 2 days away from getting aid, but most historians think that it was because they saw a weak point in the Persians and they had just developed this genius plan, which they had just did. Their plan was to have a weak center, so the Persians attack, they are drawn into the center, and then the flanks surround the Persians and making the Persians flee to their ships, and then they can massacre the Persians while they're fleeing. And that's what their plan is. So does it happen? And yes, it does. The Persians attack and the Spartans attack. The Athenians attack, and the Persians are drawn into the center because they see that there's a very small force. But that was a big mistake because then what happens is the Greeks come around and flank them. Now the Persians are surrounded. This is very bad news. And obviously, if you were a Persian, you'd be like, I'm out. We're gonna lose this battle. I'm out. And that's what they thought. And they broke from the battlefield. They fled from the ship. Some of them left the battlefield, deserted the army. Some stayed to keep fighting, the honorable ones, but it was just a massacre. The ones that kept fighting were stuck, surrounded here, and the ones that were fleeing to the ships were getting massacred by the Greeks. And so this was a decisive Greek victory. They had only lost 200 men of their 11,000, and the Persians had lost 6,000 men out of 30,000. That's a very good kill KD ratio for the Greeks. Anyways, since this was a Greek victory, the Persians were back on their fleet and at sea. But since they lost 6,000 men, they still had 24,000 men left. So they still had a pretty sizable army versus the Greeks, which was now 10,800 men. So they still had hopes of even though they lost the battle, they still had hopes on beating the Greeks because the Greeks did not have as strong of an economy and stuff like that to handle the Persians. So the Persians had way more troops. So even if they lost the battle, they still had more troops at their disposal. So they still have a sizable army, and what they're going to try to do is, as we can see right here, is they're going to still try to attack the city of Athens directly. Now that what they're hoping is that the Athenians will still be marching back from the battlefield, and then they can attack Athens when there's just a small garrison there, quickly defeat the city, put up defenses around the city, and then they took Athens. They just took a huge city, probably the largest city in all of Greece, from the Athenians, and the Athenians don't have a large enough army to lay siege to Athens. So if they can do that, they can still win this campaign and win this war. But unfortunately, the Greek city, Athens, gets back very quick. They march at night, they're very quick, and they get back to Athens. So when the Persians arrive, they see that the Greeks are already there. The Greeks have already set up a defense, and they can't do anything now because Athens is still there, and their morale is very low. Their troops don't want to fight, and so they go back to Turkey, modern day Turkey, back to where it's safe for them to go. And this was just a very bad campaign, and they lost the campaign. This was a decisive Greek victory. It's just one battle, and that's all that needs to happen. One battle to end the Persian Empire's hopes of beating the Greeks. So that was the first campaign. In the next episode, I'm going to be talking about the second campaign and did they win? Who won the second campaign? This is the Greco-Persian Wars. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next video, which will be about the second campaign. Bye.